Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How is everyone? Yes, it's Friday. Open the beer. I would like to say that this is the first one of the week, but well, it isn't. Let's get that out the way first of all. I had an absolute bear of a day yesterday, and working from I think it was 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. So I just had to have a couple before calling it a night. So cheers, everyone. Now then, as is the custom, let me tell you about what's coming up on the channel in the next few days. Starting tomorrow, well, I'll just tell you the title of the video tomorrow, because that basically tells you everything you need to know. It's called The Strat That Changed My Mind. You can probably see it over there, actually. The Strat That Changed My Mind and the Essential Scale for Country Rock. Then on Monday, there is a video going up, which it's basically one of the solo videos that I tend to do on a Monday these days. And if anyone is familiar with the initials NWOBHM, if anyone knows what that little acronym stands for, NWOBHM, Nwobaham, as it were, then you will probably recognise the solo that's going up on Monday. Tuesday, we're having a look at another amp sim, probably going to be Neural DSP. Wednesday is a lesson on improvising. Thursday, we're looking at Dreadnought guitars, the video postponed from this week. And then Friday, we're back on the beer again. So that's this week coming up on the channel. But as many of you will have noticed in the community tab, I put up that's the one, Das, yes, the new NWOBHM, the new wave of British heavy metal. It was kind of a genre of metal that existed, say, the mid 70s to the mid 80s, and I guess the kind of bands who made it big out of that were probably Saxon, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, all of those kind of guys. And there is a solo going up on Monday by a guitarist who I haven't featured on the channel yet, and I just thought it was about time to look at the work of a certain Mr. Schenker. Yes, we're looking at one of his on Monday. Anyway, as I was saying, I put a post up on the community. There you go, Steve. Yes, Stevie Hoggett knows what we're talking about. I put a post up on the community tab earlier on in this week, kind of hinting that I was getting a new guitar. And I left a few clues as to what it might be. Evening, everyone. Yes, evening, Graham. Evening, Bob. And I put this post up saying I was getting a new guitar, and it was a signature model, and it was a twin humbucker Telecaster. So, you know, make of that what you will. So what you need to ask yourself is, which guitar player has a signature model guitar that is a twin humbucker Telecaster? Because I'm getting one of those. And, well, there's been a few guesses, but I'll put you out of your misery. The signature model is the Scott Guitars John Robson signature model guitar. Yes, Dan, who made that beautiful guitar that I reviewed on Wednesday, that one-off custom twin humbucker Telecaster. There was a conversation after the review, and basically Dan is going to make me a very, very special guitar, John Robson's signature model, that's going to be available for you guys to buy. It's going to be in strictly limited numbers because he is just one chap working out of a workshop, building these. So it's evening, Craig. Thank you. Yes. It is always wet and windy in Redcar. It's the beer and the curry, which is on for later. Yes, so Dan is building me that guitar, and I am like a 10-year-old waiting for Christmas. I can't tell you. It's basically going to be the same spec as the guitar that I reviewed, except it's going to have a 22 fret neck and it's going to have single coil switching on the pickups, but everything else is going to be broadly the same. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. I will be updating you with pictures of the build, and then I'll kind of we'll talk about prices and stuff. By the way, I just want to clear something up about that guitar that I reviewed from Scott Guitars. I mentioned in the video that prices, Dan's in actually, Dan O'Sullivan, that's the very talented chap who's making my signature guitar. I mentioned that prices for Dan's guitars start at around £1,000, and a lot of people seem to have interpreted that as, the guitar that I reviewed costs £1,000. Well, first of all, that guitar isn't for sale, but anything of that spec would be somewhere slightly north of that. It has to be said, because of, the fancy top and the gold hardware and et cetera, et cetera. So just bear that in mind if you're thinking of ordering one. And the John Robson signature model will be available in strictly limited numbers, and more details to follow. I don't want to sit here and act, this is my trying not to be smug face, but I am really. Yes, you made it when you got a signature model. Indeed, Ozzy. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Craig. Thank you. Yes, I'm just basking in all of your congratulations now. Excuse me while I just have a wee swally. In other news, hopefully we won't suffer the dreaded buffering this evening, because I've spent most of this afternoon installing new Wi-Fi, mesh Wi-Fi router system in the house, and turns out this room was in a bit of a black spot, and it's hopefully it's all sorted now. Kieran Singh, you never get the model on the poster without an extra price. That guitar was stunning. It's well worth the money, even slightly off. Yeah, it is. I mean, I always think that. I mean, the thing about Dan's guitar building is it is genuinely handmade. A lot of companies claim handmade when, it's the hand that's making it is pressing a button on a CNC machine. That's not the way Dan is building his guitars. It's everything is shaped, literally with kind of a handheld tool to get it the way that it needs to be, and that's got to be reflected in the price. And people tend to think I'm a bit of a cheapskate and I don't like expensive guitars. Don't have a problem with expensive guitars. The problem I have is with companies who charge handmade prices for CNC made guitars. And I think we all know who we're talking about. Let's not kind of get into, into naming names, but there are companies out there who do that, So there you go. Malcolm saying my Martin Booth was handmade too. Do you know I played a Martin Booth guitar once? I just. It was about in the early 90s at some point. Do you remember when Guitarist magazine used to do their own sort of like little mini NAMM show? There was one at Manchester, I seem to remember, and I went to that one, and I'm sure there's a Martin Booth guitar I played there. No, Colin, not a tortoise shell pickguard. No, this, It's not a tortoiseshell pickguard. It doesn't even have single coil pickups, which is unusual for me. It does, however, have the Vanson Classic 57 pickups, which I absolutely adore. I think they are a fantastic pickup, and I know from having them in my, you can't see it here, but it's in the Harley Benton PRS knockoff. I know that when you chop those in half, you do get a really good single coil sound out of them. So. Does it rhyme with Dibson? Might do. Excuse me. May I drink? Oh, Friday. I do love Fridays. It's as I say, I've been a busy old lad this week, and you know, and Friday is all about the beer and the curry. I just want to, while I'm here as well, because I've seen he's turned up, I want to say a big thank you to Bottleneck Bob Bridge, who was very generous in bringing up his Gretsch Bobtail resonator. I had immense fun playing that guitar, and Bob was here for ages, and we just had a fantastic natter. Top bloke. Go and check out his channel. It's in the link to the resonator video that I did with his guitar. Top bloke, and that is a really nice guitar, it has to be said. You're welcome, Bob. You're welcome, mate. My pleasure. Does it have a palm or scratch plate? It doesn't have a scratch plate. Dearie me. No, I'm not putting a scratch plate over a lovely piece of maple like that. Have you ever seen a Moss Wright guitar from the 60s, the Ventures guitar? I've seen one. Never played one, though. That was kind of, wasn't that the guitar that was basically just sort of modelled on an upside-down Strat? I do. Well, I used to know a guy who had one, but he was a lefty, and he had a lefty version of it, which apparently is quite rare. You know, I always thought those Moss Wright guitars were, well, they weren't the prettiest guitars, were they? They were a bit of an ugly duckling. You have to get Bon round for a few Friday night beers and a live chat. Really? The Ventures are a favourite group of mine. The Moss Wright guitars have a unique sound. I'll go with you on that. Yeah, they do have that that sound, don't they? It's very definitely the guitar for the kind of that sort of surf guitar sort of sound, I would say. And you know, I mean, who doesn't love Walk Don't Run by the Ventures? It's the only one of theirs that I know. But the first time I heard that, actually, and this is showing my age, there was Shawaddy Waddy did a cover of it on a B-side. I'm convinced they did like an instrumental cover of it on a B-side of maybe Three Steps to Heaven, or you know, one of those kind of a little bit of soap, or one of those 70s kind of hits that they had, and that was the first time I heard it. And then, you know, yeah, Craig, I can't wait to see it either, mate. Oh, you fix the strange noises in your Telecaster, Ozzy. I'm so pleased, mate. Yeah. What did you do? In case I don't see it in the chat, I'll have a look later. But I'm looking at the chat and I'm talking and I'm thinking about me beer and I'm having a vape. Somebody actually pulled me up on vaping the other week, you know, saying, "Oh, don't vape, John." I think he forgot for a moment he wasn't me man. Where are we? The chat is moving too fast for me to keep up with. Moss Wright started out in the Rickenbacker factory before going out on his own. I didn't know that. The Ventures did Surf Rider from Pulp Fiction. I shall have to watch that movie again. God, it's got to be about 15 years since I've watched that film. Fantastic film. Absolutely fantastic. I think that was, I mean, I am a Quentin Tarantino fan, but I don't think he's ever made a better film, really. I mean, the last one I saw was The Hateful Eight, and that was okay, but it just felt a bit long for what it was. And, you know, I sort of lost interest after the first Kill Bill, but Pulp Fiction is a film I could watch again and again and again. How often do you change your strings? I change my strings. Well, what I tend to do is, you know, when you're watching a bunch of my videos and suddenly I've been playing the Gordon Smith for video after video after video, and then suddenly I'm playing the Telecaster, or suddenly I'm playing the Harley Benton. That's when the strings are knackered on the Gordon Smith. I tend to change strings about once a week per guitar. Yeah, I haven't seen that one, Steve. Inglorious Thingies, yes. But I've got to tell you, for strings, and I'm not affiliated with this brand in any way. I'm just kind of letting you know because I think they're excellent strings. Legacy strings from Strings Direct. These are $3.99 a set. That's less than I was paying 20 years ago for a set of Didarios. And these are incredibly good strings, really, really good strings. I did flirt for a while with Harley Benton strings, and Harley Benton strings are pretty good. I'd choose them in a pinch, but those legacy strings are fantastic. As good as the Darios, as good as, anything you want to put on. Certainly a lot better than some brands of strings. Fender. But yeah, $3.99 a set. I just buy a carton of them at a time. John just discovered Cleto. I don't know what. Klaatu? Don't know how I missed them. What's your thoughts? I don't know what that is. I'll be honest with you. Please enlighten me. And totally, Graham's saying, totally agree with Legacy. Excellent bass strings as well. Yes, I've got a set of them on the bass there. Now, ask me how often I change bass strings. I've had that bass about 15 years, and it's on its about third set of strings. Yes, when I pick up a bass, I become a bass player. And I just don't change strings particularly often because, I don't use it that often. It gets played a couple of times a week at the most, that thing. String changes about every 6 months here. Do you know what? I was watching a Rick Beato video. It was one of those where he was having a chin wag with his mate, the guitar tech guy. What's he called? Dave Honorato. Dave was saying that he would get the guitar from Rick that he'd had 18 months beforehand. He said, can you fix the pots on this guitar, or can you kind of do something with the wiring or something? And, Dave was saying, I know how I put the strings on a guitar. And, 18 months later, Rick's still got the same strings on his guitar. Some people just seem to be able to, I don't know, maybe they don't have any sweat glands in their hands. But I remember when I used to be playing on the club gigs and stuff, kind of doing the club circuit. Sometimes we'd be out 3, 4, 5 nights a week, and that was after a hot, sweaty gig under a lighting rig, especially where you're getting these hot lights shining down on you. One gig and a set of strings were just toast. They were just gone. I would try and keep them on for a second gig, and I'd just start snapping strings. So I kind of got into I was buying a ridiculous amount of strings back then, and maybe if I'd known about fast fret or something back then, it would have been something of a string saver. But yeah, I don't change them as often as I used to. But it's the other thing is, since dearie me, when was it? About, gosh, it's got to be about 20 years ago now that I went from 9s up to 10s. Then I can't remember the last time I broke a string. What's that? Calling occupants of interplanetary craft. That was a single by the Carpenters, wasn't it? Bob changes strings around every 6 weeks or 2 days before a gig. What's Kieran saying? I use Dunlop from Northwest Guitars, about £4 a pop, but give the Legacies a go. Yeah, Legacies are great. Every so often I just put in a big order at Strings Direct, and I don't know if that's their in-house brand because I've not seen them on sale anywhere else. But that's where I get them from. I've been ordering strings from Strings Direct since before the internet, when it was just like a small ad in the back pages of Guitarist magazine. I keep old strings just for emergencies. Can't throw anything away. Same as my granddad in the war. He died in a grenade. Yes, the old ones are the best. That reminds me of a Bob Monkhouse joke. Bob Monkhouse, bless him. Yes, one of his best one-liners. He says, "When I die," he says, "I want to go just like my dad, peacefully in my sleep, not screaming in terror like his passengers." Yes. Dave Barlow says the same thing about legacy strings. Yeah, it seems I've never heard a bad thing about them. And the other thing I like about them is you know with rotor sounds how you get the spare E, the spare top E string. Well, with legacy you get a spare top E and a B string, and I've got a load of them here. Should sell them on eBay, really, spare strings. Greetings from Sweden, says Lefty Guitar as well. Greetings from Redcar, mate. Yeah, Ozzy, I'm with you on that. I used to use metal picks as well. In the sort of early to mid 90s, I got into using a brass pick. And, at the risk of sounding a bit kind of anal here, it did make a difference to the tone. It was a very, very... I noticed the difference from going from plastic to a brass pick, but it just chewed strings. It just kind of ate them. It was, and I think I was still using nines at the time, but it was absolutely brutal on strings. And I just thought, you know what, let's just go back to the old Jim Dunlop Jazz 3. Now, there's a question for you. What picks do you guys use? I'll get the ball rolling. This is my pick of choice. I'll just hold it up to the camera. There it is. It is the old Jim Dunlop Jazz 3. Nice and kind of stiff and rigid and no give in it at all. That's my pick of choice. Whether I'm playing acoustic, electric, bass, whatever, that is the pick that I use. So what do you guys use? Yeah, JJ, Bob Monkhouse was a great champion and curator of comedy. I think it's sad that Bob was, he's kind of remembered by a lot of people as the kind of cheesy game show host, but I saw him once doing stand-up, and if ever you get the chance to watch it, I think it's called Bob Monkhouse's Last Gig or something like that. It's probably up on YouTube. This is when he had like a few weeks left to live, and, he's just doing his last ever gig in front of an invited audience of comedians. And it was just it's just a heartwarming and funny thing to watch. The huge triangle psycho shredder. That I think Jeff Healey used to use one of those. Alan Pape uses Dunlop picks. Billy Gibbons uses sevens. Yeah, I know he uses 7-gauge strings. Here's my thing on string gauges, though. Okay. I break strings if I use anything lighter than 10s. So if I'm using anything lighter than 10s, I tend to kind of back off quite a bit in terms of how I play. And that affects the tone that I get. So when people say, does the gauge of string that you use affect the tone that you get? It does, but not in a direct way, because the gauge of strings affects how I play, and that affects the tone. And I don't know, I just feel comfortable on 10s on any scale length guitar, whether it's like the shorter scale length guitar I've got in here is the Gordon Smith, which is, I think the Gordon Smith is 24.625, so it's even shorter than a Gibson, but slightly longer than a PRS 594. And whether it's that or whether it's a Fender scale length of 25.5 inches, 10 gauge strings on a lot of them. Jim Dunlop 0.75 millimeter. Jack uses Tortex on my electric guitars and the Jim Dunlop 80. Yeah, the Tortex picks. I remember them coming out in the 80s because I remember they gave one away with a guitar magazine. I seem to remember, and Robert Cray was endorsing them. Remember him? And I mean, I've got one here. I've got a Dunlop Tortex here, just the same. It's just a Jazz 3 Tortex. I just find them really, as soon as you get a bit of sweat on them, they just turn into, they're about as grippy as a greasy weasel. Yeah. What we're saying there, I got some Jim Dunlop, the big Stubbies. Now, I tried the Stubbies and I liked them for a while, but they're a bit, they're great for playing lead, but I can't strum with a Stubby. I just can't. When I was younger, I told people I want to be a comedian. Everyone laughed. Well, they're not laughing now. Yeah, that's one of Bob's great ones, isn't it, Greg? Peter's saying he hardly ever use a pick. Mine, I'm a slide player, so maybe I should. Besides, I'm hopeless with a pick. Yeah, I've got a student actually, also called Pete, who great guy. If you go back and dig out one of my videos where I'm comparing the charity shop Telecaster, which you can see the remnants of that hanging on the wall there behind me, when I'm comparing that with a Fender American Elite Telecaster. The American Elite Telecaster belongs to Pete, and Pete doesn't use a pick at all. And in his lesson this week, he was complaining that he was getting a sore thumb from doing a lot of strummy stuff. I said, "Well, Pete, mate, use a pick." You know. Yeah, someone like grippy as a greasy weasel. I don't know where that came from. I probably heard it somewhere. Herding picks, original, so no longer available. They're a German brand used by U2's The Edge. Great to get that chime sound during using the stipple grip. Yeah. Can you still get those shark fin ones that were like 3 picks in one? They were like kind of a regular pick, then there was a really pointy bit, and then there was a serrated pick bit on one edge. I haven't seen those in ages. Are those still available? Yeah, again, everybody's telling me what sort of picks they're using here, and I'm just trying to count. It seems we're all quite diverse in our choice of picks. I was kind of thinking maybe that there'd be some sort of consensus there, that maybe everybody was using this type or everybody was using that type. Interestingly, I think there's only one guy who said that he uses a thumb pick. One of my students very, very kindly sent me, and I can't remember the brand name of it, but it was like a thumb pick, but it was kind of, it had like the kind of wraparound thing of a thumb pick, but it was kind of spring-loaded, and it was a plectrum as well. It was like plectrum-shaped rather than the thumb pick sort of shape. And he swears by them. And I don't know. I mean, is my thumb unusual or something? But every time I put a thumb pick on, any kind of thumb pick, after about 10 minutes, the end of my thumb starts turning blue from cutting off the circulation. Malcolm uses a shark's fin for acoustic, so obviously you still can get them. I'm surprised Brian May doesn't play with a 50 quid note these days. Yeah, if you watch there's a great rig rundown video. I think it's a Premier Guitar who do those with of Brian May's gear. I'm sure most of you lads have seen it. But Brian May's guitar tech was saying that those old sixpences that he uses, you can literally still buy them at face value. Yeah, after using jazz picks for so long, I struggle with a big pick. Now, I've got one here that I keep handy for students. This thing here, and this for me, when I try playing with this, it feels like I'm holding a paving slab. It just feels ridiculously huge. Yeah, Jeff, what were we saying? Chris Broderick, who was in Megadeth, uses the pick grip. I didn't know that. Yeah, I've done that as well. Dan once made my own pick from an old credit card, or just any old bit of plastic. done that myself many a time. You know, when I remember there's a guitar player in this part of the world who I've probably mentioned before. In this area here, he's one of the two big fish in the pond. Really, there's a guy called Andy Powell who I've mentioned before, but there's another guy called Graham Russell, who is like, imagine if Joe Satriani and Yngwie Malmsteen and Gary Moore were all sort of cloned into one body. This is Graham Russell. He's an immense rock and metal player, and I saw him once at this working men's club in Middlesbrough. I don't even know if it's still there. It's Samuelson's Working Men's Club, Sammy's Club, as everybody knows it in this area. It's just this little club down a back street in Middlesbrough, and it's an upstairs gig, and you got flights of stairs to hump your gear up. And he turned up in a Mini. He turned up in a Mini with like all of his guitars and PA and Marshall stack and everything all crammed into this Mini. It was like a TARDIS inside this car. And, you know, and he humped all his gear up the stairs. And what's the one thing he'd forgotten? A pick. He's scrounging around the audience. Has anybody got a pick? Black Mountain spring-loaded thumb picks. That's the one. That was the spring-loaded thumb pick. I just couldn't wear it. It was still too tight on my thumb. Never play your guitar in front of Michael Miles or Des O'Connor. They'll take you. Oh, yes, thank you, Peter. Boomer strings. Well, I should really use those because I am that sort. Well, I get called it enough. I'm not really a boomer, but you know, I'm a generation after the boomers. But yes, someone actually said that to me the other day. Okay, boomer. Fair enough. You know. If Graham Russell is the one I'm thinking of, I went to school with him in John. Insane player even back then. Yeah, that's probably him, Colin. Yeah. You know, I first got to know of him in the 80s, and our paths crossed once or twice. I kind of know him, but like I wouldn't say we were mates. You know, I've always found him a great guy. I did a gig once where it was kind of a birthday party kind of thing for a local guy, and I was there as part of the house band, and Graham was there, Graham Russell and Andy Power, the two kind of other big guys, and it just became like the kind of between them two, it became who can shred the most. And I thought, do you know what? I'm not going to get involved in that. I'll just sit here and strum bar chords. Thank you very much. You know. We're going to need a bigger boat, yes. Once got propositioned by 4 prostitutes in one night loading the van outside Sammy's. It was a no pickup, so I saved me money. Yes, that's the thing. Let's just explain that parlance to everybody. There's 2 types of gig in this part of the world. There's the pickup, and there's the no pickup. And the pickup is where you get paid on the night from the concert chairman or whoever. And there's the no pickup, where you don't get paid. You just kind of wait for the money to come through from the agent at the end of the month. And many's the time we've limped the van to the gig on its last thimbleful of diesel, you know, thinking, well, it's a pickup tonight, so we can kind of fuel up on the way home. And then you get to the club and it's like concert chairman's, oh, no, sorry, lads, this isn't a pickup. This gig never been a pickup in years. You know, you have to talk to your agent at the end of the month. And it's like, has anybody got any room left on the credit card to fuel up, or we're not getting home? In Norway, if you say pick, that's the same thing as you English call. Oh, really? Well, that's interesting to know. Okay, I guess you lads over there have to say plectrum then, don't you? Play like Malmsteen with super ace picks. I reckon it's worth a try. Yes, well, if you want to play like Malmsteen. I've told this story many times, but I bought Yngwie's first album back in the 80s on vinyl, as it was then, and never got round to listening to side 2, because side 1 was always amazing for the first, you know, kind of 5 minutes, and then, by the end of side one, you're bored and you never kind of want to switch it over, kind of flip the vinyl over to side two. Yeah, Craig, Andy Powell's music range is unbelievable. He can play pretty much in any style. Yeah, he is. I mean, Andy Powell, he's just beamed in from another universe. I'm proud to say that I know Andy, and our paths haven't crossed in many a year, but whenever we do, he always greets me like a long-lost friend, Fantastic player, great bloke, and, very humble with it as well. My grandkids know picks as plinkers. It's funny because my missus always calls it a pictrum. Well, I found another one of your pictrums in the Hoover today. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Graham. I must have tried every pick going over the last few years, including the expensive ones. But I always come back to the humble Jazz 3. Yeah, that's it. They're not that cheap these days. I mean, I remember when he went, well, maybe that's just me showing my age, and inflation and all that. But, I remember when it used to go into a guitar shop, Middlesbrough Music, or even before that, Hamilton's in Middlesbrough, if anyone remembers that one. And you'd get, a guitar lead and a set of strings or something, and it'd come to, the exorbitant price of, £3 or something, so you'd hand over a £5 note and just say, give me the change in picks. And that's what I always used to do. And, plectrums back then, you'd get like almost a sack full of plectrums in your change. Not really, but, you'd get a good old handful. And now those, I can't remember how much I paid for those Jim Dunlop Jazz 3s, but I buy them in sets of 3 or 6, and it's a few quid for a set, so, but, they suit me, I like them, so that's what I'm going to do. Jason saying, been listening to Andy Timmons lately. His Electric Gypsy tune is an ode to Hendrix. Amazing tone. Yeah, I've got an Andy Timmons. Is it an Andy Timmons album? Yeah, I think Resolution, is the album I've got of his. And it's just like a 3-piece album where it's just him and a guitar player, him and a bass player and a drummer. Fantastic album. Absolutely gobsmacking. And what else have I been listening to at the moment? I tell you, the album I'm really kind of Pete Thorne's Guitar Nerd album. But the lyrics, John. Is Ozzy. I'm not sure what you mean. Yeah, I miss the local guitar shop as well, Deco. It's, mind you, there is a good one near to us that I try and support. If anybody's anywhere near Redcar or Saltburn, then go and see Stephen James Guitars in Saltburn. Fantastic place. I took a guitar in there one time thinking I was going to need it refretting or need a fret dress on it at least. And, he just did a little bit of a kind of tweak on it. And he said, there you go. I said, well, how much do you? He says, just give us a good review on Trustpilot. It's not fair enough. So, it's one of those old school guitar shops that, I mean, I'm as guilty as anybody else because I order stuff online just for the convenience of it. But, for anything like, when I need leads and anything that's, that's worth getting off your chair for, then I'll tend usually to go there. What do you think of Steve Hillage? Can't say I've heard a lot of him, to be honest with you, but that's what I love about doing this live stream is people keep kind of giving me, kind of suggestions for people to listen to. And that's also suggestions for videos as well. Already, I've got like about the next 4 or 5 solo analysis videos planned. As I say, I've been wanting to do a Schenker video for a while, so that's coming up on Monday. But there's going to be a Richard Thompson one coming relatively soon, and 1 or 2 others as well that escape me. I've got them written down, but I can't be bothered reaching for them. But you know, I love the fact that you guys always suggest new music to me and new players to look at. But yeah, Steve Hillage, it's one of those names that's kind of on my radar, but I can't really say I've ever checked out properly. So yeah, consider it on the list. Anyone listen to Martin Stevenson, he of the Dainties fame? He's been recording his old albums. Brilliant guitar pick. His lead player, Gary Dunn, is a brilliant player. Lovely lad. So, thank you, Peter. That's exactly what I mean. That's exactly the kind of suggestions that I love to get. Excuse me, I'm getting behind here. While we're on the topic of recommendations, another guitarist who I'm going to be featuring at some point, and I thought I had another beer left, but this is the last one for now. There is a fridge full more. Never fear. One guitarist who I mentioned on here a few weeks ago that I definitely should feature, and if you don't know the guy, check him out. Bill Nelson. Okay, check out. Well, probably the album I would recommend is Bebop Deluxe. That was his band. The album Sunburst Finish. It is a masterpiece of an album, or even better, Live in the Air Age, which is the Bebop Deluxe live album. Michael Schenker or Rudolf Schenker? It's got to be Michael Schenker, hasn't it? I did. And by the way, yes. Completely off on a tangent. I mentioned we're doing a giveaway with this Harley Benton British Sound pedal sometime soon. I haven't forgotten that. I'm just thinking of some kind of cunning ruse, some cunning plan to kind of like, you know, some competition to kind of give that away. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Yes, but it's Michael Schenker. I did a cover actually, which I might just kind of release through Patreon. I might just put it up there as a download for me Patreon supporters. Thank you, everyone, by the way, for if that applies to you. I did a cover of an old Schenker tune called "Into the Arena" years ago, so I might just put that up on Patreon as a free download. Peter Shields says it used to. Love Bill Nelson. Used to drink with his nephew Mark. Amazing guitar player is Bill. Yes, he is. He's a fantastic player, and just always a little bit kind of out of left field. You know, he's just a little bit sort of. You never know what to expect from him, but you know, and then you listen to it and you think, okay, this is different, but I like it. Stevie Bart, I was honoured to do a couple of gigs with Simon Fox from Bebop a couple of years back. No one else famous though. Yeah, well, I mean that's the most of us, isn't it? I mean the closest brush I've ever had to fame was back in the 90s. Andy Powell, actually. Let's come back to him. He was going to be doing a tour with the Drifters. Remember them? Saturday Night at the Movies and all those old hits. Like there's a bunch of different versions of the Drifters, all kind of touring around, you know, but this was one of them. I don't know if it's a franchise or something. But Andy Powell was going to be doing a tour with them. And he had conflicts in his diary and he couldn't quite make it. So he called me and said, can you do this Drifters tour for me? And like an idiot, like the numpty that I am, I knocked it back because the band that I was in at the time was starting to kind of get a bit of traction, and we were starting to kind of maybe kind of get a little bit of you know, kind of exposure, and I sort of knocked it back. And I you know, I always think, well, I mean, nothing would have come of it, you know. It wouldn't have been my ticket to the big leagues, but it was good money. And I knocked it back. Never mind. Bottleneck Bob, you've been listening to Wes Montgomery. Yes. What's that? The incredible jazz guitar of Wes Montgomery. That's, let me see. I've got that on my phone here. Excuse me while I just The album, in case anybody's looking for it, is I can't read this at the moment. These glasses are absolutely useless. But yeah, Wes Montgomery is. I mean, everybody thinks of him as that guy who used to play all kind of stuff with his thumb in octaves. But that's a bit of a cliche about him. He was just such a melodic player, and he's very much like Kenny Burrell. He's that kind of jazz player who, you can hear that his kind of take on jazz is very, very rooted in blues. Pete saying, my old guitar player, Martin Waugh, ended up playing for Mika, Kylie Minogue, Lily Allen, Sophie Ellis-Bextor. Not my kind of thing, but at least the boy got more than a $5 for a bag of chips. Yeah, well, this is it. This is the that is the life of a gigging musician, isn't it? There's an acquaintance of mine. There used to be a huge band on the circuit round here, kind of, again, going back to what I was talking about earlier, Nwabaham, the new wave of British heavy metal. There was a huge band on the circuit round here called Black Rose. Anybody else from the Northeast remember them? And their guitar player, a guy called Chris Watson, or Chris Wawa Watson. Me and him got pally on this message board thing that we used to kind of hang out on together. Our paths never crossed professionally as musicians, but he lives down south somewhere now and doing the same thing as me, actually, a guitar teacher. And one of his students actually went on to be in Lauren Harris's band. Steve Harris from Iron Maiden. She's apparently kind of, doing great things now. And her guitarist, was one of his students. Have you ever met David Coverdale, John? Funnily enough, no, I haven't. I live in Redcar. He's from Redcar, but he'd long departed Redcar before I'd come to Redcar. He's one of those guys, actually. Because like there's like about maybe, I mean, let's count them up. There's Chris Rea, there's David Coverdale, and who else is a big rock star or a biggish rock star from the UK, from Teesside rather? Probably Mickey Moody. There's if I had £1 for every person I've ever met who used to play in a band with David Coverdale or Chris Rea or Mickey Moody, then I would never need to work again. It's me and David Coverdale, we were like that. Yeah, we were best mates, and then and so on and so on. A number of people I've met who've got that story to tell. But no, I've never met the guy. Chubby and Paul Daniels, yeah, they're both from this neck of the woods. I wouldn't call them rock stars though. Brian Ferry's from Sunderland. He's a Mackham. And Eric Burden's from Newcastle, isn't he? No, Ian, Black Rose, the Black Rose that I knew weren't a Thin Lizzy tribute band. They used to do original stuff. They were kind of more of an originals band, and they were one of these bands that, kind of had some record company interest, and it just never quite tipped over. I suspect it was that kind of thing of wrong place, wrong time, because a band that I absolutely adore and I think should get much more recognition than they do, Thunder should have been as big as Guns N' Roses. Thunder are a fantastic band because they're still kind of together in some form now, but they just kind of made it big in about 89, 90, and then the whole kind of world changed, and suddenly, boom, everything has to be kind of sounding like you're coming from Seattle and you only know 3 chords. Yeah, Alan Hall. Yeah, he's from Newcastle as well, isn't he? Been on the road with a few bands you might know, but always had a laugh. Would do it again in a heartbeat, John. Well, fair enough for you, mate. I mean, on a very, very, very small scale, I've done the whole touring thing. The luxury tour bus was essentially, kind of a transit van, and you kind of sleeping in on a sleeping bag on top of the bass bins, and I enjoyed it. I had fun at the time, but it's not something that, as a 50-odd-year-old bloke, I want to go back to. I've found my little kind of middle-aged niche, my rut, and I'm quite comfortable in it. Thank you very much. Blokes who played with the big bands in the 70s, like the blokes who tell you in the end they were in the SAS in the pub. Yes. Mind you, we won't go into that. Well, actually, I'll tell you the story. We've had a bit of work done on our house over the years. Our house is it's a bit like Trigger's broom, from Only Fools and Horses. It's I've had this broom for 14 years, and in all that time, it's only had 14 new heads and 3 new shafts. That's kind of like our house. It's had new roof, new walls, and all manner of stuff. And the builder we always get to do the work for us, I reckon he's ex-regiment. He's just got that air about him. He admits to being an ex-paratrooper, because you get talking to the lad. And so what else did you do? And then he's always a bit cagey about where else, kind of what else he did. And he thought, yeah, you're the one guy who doesn't say that he was in the regiment. And that probably means he was, Lee Capo on the 4th. Yeah, he saw Thunder at Download Festival a few years ago. Amazing live. Yeah, they were at Middlesbrough Town Hall many, many years ago, and they just kind of sauntered onto stage. And the lead singer, if anybody remembers an actor in the UK called Robson Green, no relation, then the lead singer looked a bit like him, and he just kind of, you think, who's this bloke? And then he just opened his gob, and out comes this amazing voice. If you haven't got that first album of theirs, then just go and get it. Go and Spotify it. Go and download it. Whatever. Thunder, Backstreet Symphony. It is just a fantastic, good old-fashioned classic rock album that just ticks all the boxes. Great guitar playing, great singing, great songwriting. It's fantastic. Newcastle City Hall. Yeah, Danny Bowes, that's the guy. Yes, Danny Bowes. What a fantastic voice he has. What's it saying? The Matrix. I'm not sure what you mean there, Johnny. Who is the best live band you've ever seen? Well, would it come as a surprise to tell you that it was Gary Moore? Saw him on the Still Got the Blues tour. And that was at Newcastle City Hall. And, it was, he'd kind of stopped doing the whole kind of cheesy 80s kind of rock sort of thing. And he'd just gone back to doing blues. And he was having an absolute ball. And you could tell he was loving what he was doing. And you just couldn't get the guy off stage. It was just like the evening finished with like just this kind of jam where nobody knew what song they were playing, but it was a 12-bar blues, so it didn't matter. The band had clearly run out of material that they'd rehearsed, and and he still wanted to play, so they just came out and jammed this epic blues thing for about 15 minutes, and he was just on form that night, and fantastic stuff. That was a highlight. Who else have I seen that was good? Saw the Jeff Healey band, actually. Again, Newcastle City Hall. And that was a good gig. Yeah, both of those kind of stand out in my memory. I remember seeing, and I hate to say it, but I remember seeing the Shadows at Middlesbrough Town Hall, and I was just meh. It was. I might as well have stayed at home and listened to the albums, because it was just there was no atmosphere, there was no kind of, there was no vibe to it. It was just like listening to the albums at home. Bottleneck Bob, you saw Gary Moore on that tour as well, did you, mate? Yeah, Sensational Alex Harvey band. Now, there you go. Now, many people who know of the Sensational Alex Harvey band probably know them for one kind of novelty single where they did the old Tom Jones tune, Delilah. But, yeah, I mean, I've got an album of theirs, well, 2 or 3 albums of theirs somewhere tucked away on a hard drive, and I should listen to them more often. Not everyone's cup of tea, but U2, Roundhay Park, Zoo TV tour in '93 was immense. What a show that was. Yeah, well, fair enough. I mean, the thing is with U2, they are kind of in the same sort of frame for me as Bowie. I don't like every David Bowie album. I wouldn't describe myself as a David Bowie fan, or Bowie, depending on your pronunciation. But the stuff that I like, I really, really like. And people bang on about the Joshua Tree, but for me, it's it's Rattle and Hum. That's the album that I go back to again and again. Newcastle. Somebody saying source Guns N' Roses at Newcastle Arena, Metro Arena. Yeah, fantastic. Can I tell you about another band, actually, a support band? What's the best support band you've ever seen? The best support act I've ever seen was at the NEC. They were opening for Eric Clapton. It was an Italian guy called Zucchero or whatever. And he had a minor kind of hit, a duet with Paul Young in the early 90s. I think the lead singer was the name of the band, Zucchero, and they were just this Italian rock band, singing mainly in Italian, and I really, really enjoyed them. And as I say, they opened for Clapton, and I wouldn't say they stole the show, but they did. That kind of thing when you go and see a support band. Everybody's kind of just chatting and what have you. They held the room. They were a good band. The Little River Band, dearie me, the Little River Band. I'd forgotten all about them. Wasn't who was the guy from the Little River Band who had that one-hit wonder? Was it John Farnham? Wasn't he from the Little River Band? You're the Voice, etc. And that was him. Yeah, Big Country were a great band, and used to cover one of their songs. I think it was actually In a Big Country back many, many years ago. Dear me, those guitar parts were. That's him, Jim. Yes, Zucchero, whatever his surname is. I've had too much beer and I'm too short-sighted to pronounce that. Best support band was The Darkness, supporting Def Leppard in the early days. Yes. Now, I mean, a regular contributor to this stream, Matty Lockwood. He's, I remember teaching him as a young lad, and he was a big Darkness fan. He's into all of his kind of drop tunes, 7-string metal stuff these days, but he still does like The Darkness. They are another one of the bands that's on the list that I'm going to do an analysis of, by the way. Right then, anyway, chaps, it's coming up to about an hour we've been on, and I'm just looking out the window here. and I believe I can see my curry arriving. So I'm going to just thank you all for turning up once again. It has been an absolute blast. We've had no buffering. We've had no gremlins. We've had a good time. We've had some beer. Thank you, everyone, for turning up. And I'm going to go and eat some curry now. So, time, gentlemen, please. We'll see you all next week. Thanks for turning up, guys. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.